This is English for Real People, a journey into clear, authentic English.
Welcome to English for Real People. I'm Sarah.
And I'm James. Great to have you here.
This channel is all about speaking real English, the way real people speak.
Today, we're using shadowing. You listen, you repeat, and you speak with us.
No grammar explanations, no translations, just real conversations.
Can you keep up? Can you think in English?
Stay with us, repeat out loud, and feel your English become natural.
Let's get started.
Imagine you are sitting in a really high-stakes boardroom, right? Maybe in London or New York.
Oh, yeah. The classic pressure cooker scenario.
Exactly. And you know your material flawlessly. You have the exact English vocabulary locked and loaded to pitch your project. But, and this is the nightmare, the second you open your mouth, something completely derails.
Right, because your brain's phonological loop just hijacks your tongue.
Yes, and a sound completely different from the one you heard in your head comes out. The client politely asks you to repeat yourself, and suddenly, despite, years of academic grammar study, you feel completely disconnected from the language.
It is so common. And I mean, that disconnect happens because we tend to treat language acquisition as a purely cognitive exercise,
Yeah.
Like mathematics.
Right, like memorizing conjugation tables and vocabulary lists.
Exactly. But the reality of spoken communication navigating the unpredictable, lightning-fast waters of human speech is fundamentally muscular.
It's physical.
Totally physical. You are demanding that your jaw, tongue, lips, and vocal cords perform these complex microgymnastics that they have literally never practiced.
Well, welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today, we are moving entirely out of the textbook and into that physical realm.
I love this topic. It's a game changer.
It really is. Think of today's deep dives as a highly practical, interactive audio tutorial. Our objective is to physically transform your spoken English fluency through a masterclass on a technique known as shadowing.
And we really have the data to back this up today.
We do. We've got a massive stack of source material to guide us. We're looking at the 2026 Papara Shadowing Guide, University Phonetic Manuals, Cambridge Linguistic blogs, some really great deep dives from Berlitz, and intensely specific regional dialect breakdowns from places like Sila Inglés and English with Catherine.
And what really stands out across all these diverse linguistic traditions is how they all converge on this one mechanical practice.
Shadowing.
Right. Shadowing isn't just listening and repeating. It is the act of imitating a native speaker simultaneously.
So not pausing the tape and then speaking.
Exactly. You hear the audio track, and a fraction of a second later, you are generating the exact same sounds. You are rigorously mapping their pronunciation, their intonation frequencies, their rhythm, and their speed directly onto your own vocal apparatus.
You essentially become their vocal shadow.
You do. You really do.
When I was poring over the Papara Guide, the best analogy I could find for the sensation of shadowing is it's like lip syncing to your favorite song.
Oh, that's a perfect way to describe it.
Right. At first, you're just mouthing the words, trying to get the hang of the rhythm and the breathing of the lead singer.
Yeah, just trying to keep up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But over time, you gradually turn your own microphone on, matching their volume, matching their vocal fry, until eventually your muscle memory takes over and you effectively become the lead singer.
That performance aspect is so critical. And I think it directly addresses a common lingering fear among advanced learners that perfectly imitating a native speaker somehow erases your own cultural identity.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I hear that a lot. Like they feel like they're faking it.
Right, exactly. But if we view shadowing as building a specific muscular capability rather than an identity shift, it frees you to actually perform. You are hacking that phonological loop we mentioned.
Bypassing the whole mental translation thing.
Exactly. Traditional language production requires you to think of the concept, translate it from your native language into English, and then force your mouth to generate it. Shadowing bypasses the translation phase entirely.
You are building physical pathways directly from your auditory cortex to your motor cortex.
Right. So it's a physical workout for the articulation muscles.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of how a learner actually structures this, scaling up the difficulty as we go. If you are listening to this right now, I want you to pay attention to where your tongue is currently resting in your mouth.
Oh, that's a good exercise.
Is it pressed against your teeth? Is it flat? Just notice it, because we are about to start moving it around.
The guides recommend starting with 1 to 3 minutes of audio that has a flawless transcript.
Right, don't try to shadow a 2-hour movie right out of the gate.
Exactly. Beginners should lean toward clear, slightly exaggerated audio, like children's audiobooks.
Peppa Pig is great for this.
It really is. And advanced learners, they can pull fast-paced dialogue from HBO shows or TED Talks. The protocol demands blind listening first.
Blind listening, so no transcript yet.
Right. You just let the rhythm and the frequency of the speaker's voice establish a baseline in your ear. Then you integrate the text, reading along to map the meaning onto the sound waves, checking for any vocabulary gaps.
Because you have to understand the emotional context to match the physical intonation, right?
Exactly. You can't mimic anger or excitement if you don't know what the words mean.
Okay, and then the chaos begins.
Oh, yeah.
You hit play, and you speak simultaneously with the audio while reading the transcript. You try to perfectly overlap your voice with theirs. And let me tell you, having tried this with the Berlitz materials, your tongue trips over itself constantly in those first few minutes.
Oh, it feels deeply unnatural at first.
Completely. Yeah. But the Papora Guide insists that once you find the groove, you strip the text away entirely.
Yes. You rely purely on your ear and the new muscle memory.
That sounds terrifying.
It is. But that transition from text-dependent to purely auditory is where the actual neurological rewiring occurs. You stop relying on the visual crutch of the English alphabet.
Which, frankly, is notoriously deceptive when it comes to pronunciation.
Oh, absolutely.
Like looking at the word night with a K and a E just invites vocal disaster if you trust your eyes over your ears.
Exactly. But here is where I see a lot of learners, myself included, wanting to cheat the protocol.
Okay, lay it on me.
The sources insist that the absolute final step before repeating the 15-minute daily habit is to record your own voice doing the shadowing and play it back side by side with the native speaker.
Ugh, I hate recording my own voice. Everyone hates it. Why can't I just trust my own ears in real time while I'm speaking?
I get it, but the anatomical reality is that your ears are lying to you when you speak.
Wait, really? Lying to me?
Yes. When you generate sound, you are hearing yourself primarily through bone conduction. The vibrations from your vocal cords travel directly up through the bones of your skull and into your inner ear.
Okay, so it's traveling internally.
Right. And this internal acoustic environment filters out higher frequencies and amplifies lower ones, which is why your voice always sounds richer, deeper, and more resonant in your head than it does on a recording.
So my brain is operating on fundamentally flawed audio data.
Exactly. And the cognitive bias is even stronger than the acoustic bias. Your brain knows what the target English word is supposed to sound like, so it auditory hallucinates that you are producing the correct phonetic shape.
Even when my mouth is reverting to native language habits. Wow.
Exactly. The recording strips away the bone conduction and the cognitive bias. It provides a harsh, objective reality. You listen to the playback and realize, oh, my jaw wasn't open nearly enough for that vowel, or I completely swallowed that final consonant.
The recording is the diagnostic tool. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And the tools mentioned in the sources makes it highly efficient.
They do. What did you find?
Well, Language Reactor gives you dual subtitles on streaming platforms and lets you loop 3-second phrases infinitely.
That is so useful for this.
Yeah, and EchoSpeak is built exclusively for shadowing. And then there's Audacity, which lets you slow down an audio file's tempo without altering the actual pitch of the speaker's voice.
Right, preventing that warped, weird slow motion sound. Having those tools really removes the friction from the daily practice.
Let's apply this immediately to some of the most stubborn foundational habits. A significant portion of the university phonetic manuals we reviewed focuses on the structural clashes between Spanish and English.
Oh, this is a huge one.
Yeah, the biggest hurdle isn't even vocabulary. It's the underlying metronome of the language. The manuals describe Spanish as syllable-timed and English as stress-timed.
The metronome analogy is perfect here. In a syllable-timed language like Spanish or French, almost every single syllable gets an equal allotment of time.
Like a machine gun.
Exactly. The rhythm is highly regular, but English completely discards syllable count when determining rhythm. English operates entirely on the stressed words, the crucial nouns, verbs, and adjectives that carry the meaning.
So if I have a sentence like, the dogs are chasing the cats, the words dogs, chasing, and cats are heavily elongated.
Yes.
And the grammatical glue words, the and, are pulverized into tiny fractions of a second.
Exactly. The time it takes to say an English sentence depends almost entirely on the number of stressed words, not the total number of syllables.
Oh, so if you attempt to shadow a native English speaker using a syllable-timed native rhythm, Even if your pronunciation of the individual phones is pristine, you will sound robotic.
Completely robotic. Shadowing physically forces your diaphragm to compress those unstressed syllables and linger on the stressed one.
Let's look at how that plays out with specific consonants. The Cambridge blogs highlight a classic structural trap, the S cluster.
Ah, yes.
In Spanish, words simply do not start with an S followed directly by another consonant.
The phonetic environment of Spanish rejects that combination outright. So when a Spanish speaker encounters words like spoon, stay, or sky, their motor cortex panics.
It freaks out.
It does.
Okay.
It automatically inserts an unvoiced E sound at the beginning to force the word into a pronounceable Spanish structure.
So spoon becomes ispon. Stay becomes a stay. It happens completely subconsciously.
The physiological reason for this is that producing a pure sigh requires you to push air through a narrow gap behind your teeth without vibrating your vocal cords. It's an unvoiced fricative.
Okay.
But transitioning immediately from that fricative to a hard consonant like P or T requires intense muscular coordination. The brain adds the vowel E because vowels activate the vocal cords, giving the mouth a running start.
So to break that habit, the shadowing exercise requires you to radically prolong the E's sound. You don't try to speed through it.
No, you intentionally slow down and hiss like a snake.
So instead of aiming for stay and accidentally hitting a stay, you practice sage.
Exactly. You hold the unvoiced friction for 2 full seconds, forcing the vocal cords to stay completely dormant until the exact moment the next consonant hits.
You are building an entirely new neurological pathway for that specific consonant transition.
Right. Another massive hurdle at this foundational level is vowel tension, specifically distinguishing the short I from the long I.
Ah, the notorious ship versus sheep dilemma.
It's a classic for a reason. In Spanish, the I sound operates within a very narrow frequency range. In English, vowel length and the physical tension in the jaw completely alter the semantic meaning of the word.
So if you are shadowing the word sheep, the animal, your lips are physically pulled back into a slight smile.
Right. Your tongue is high and tense in the mouth, and the sound is sustained.
But if you shadow ship the boat, your jaw drops several millimeters, the lips relax completely.
The tongue lowers slightly, and the sound is clipped short. If you don't master the jaw drop and the relaxation of the lips, asking a colleague for a sheet of paper can result in a catastrophic HR violation.
Oh my goodness, yes. And the objective playback of your recording is the only way to catch whether your jaw actually dropped or if your brain merely imagined that it did.
Exactly. The recording never lies.
Okay, so once we lock in that stress-timed rhythm, conquer the phantom vowels on our S clusters, and separate our relaxed and tense vowels, we run headfirst into the biggest phonetic divide in the English-speaking world.
We have to talk about the R.
We do. Rhoticity.
How a speaker handles the letter R is basically the geographic fingerprint of their English.
It really is.
The sources categorize accents into rhotic and non-rhotic. A rhotic accent, think General American, Canadian, or Irish, pronounces the R aggressively everywhere it appears in the spelling.
Right, you hear the hard, curled tongue on words like car, hard, and water.
So mechanically, producing that rhotic R requires you to either curl the tip of your tongue backward toward the roof of your mouth or bunch the back of your tongue up near your molars.
Yeah, it creates a highly specific acoustic resonance. But a non-rhotic accent, like British received pronunciation, Australian or South African, drops the R entirely in specific environments, replacing it with an elongated vowel.
That's right.
So what are the exact environmental rules for shadowing a British non-rhotic speaker?
Okay, the physiological rule for British RP is this. If the R is followed directly by a vowel sound, the tongue engages and you pronounce it.
Like in read, bring, or arrange.
Exactly. But if the R is followed by a consonant, or if the R sits at the absolute boundary of a word before a pause, the tongue stays completely flat and the R goes silent.
Sila Ingles provides some really great examples of this. Take the word network. An American bunches the tongue for the R, network.
Right.
But in British English, the R is immediately followed by a K, a consonant. So the tongue stays flat. The word becomes network.
Or the phrase first day. The R in first hits a wall because of the S. The British speaker drops the R and simply elongates the preceding vowel to fill the rhythmic space. First day.
The material points out a fascinating psychological barrier here. Spanish speakers learning English in non-erotic regions are constantly told by well-meaning but misinformed peers that they're saying Thursday incorrectly if they don't pronounce the R.
Oh, I've seen that happen. They get told, you forgot the R.
Right. But if your shadowing target is British, pronouncing Thursday with a flat tongue is entirely phonetically accurate.
It is entirely accurate. But shadowing British RP introduces a highly complex aerodynamic mechanic called the linking R.
Oh, man. This rule completely changes how you read a transcript.
It really does. So
Yeah.
we established that if a word ends in R, like far or for, the tongue stays flat. Fa and fa.
Right.
However, the human throat despises something called a glottal stop, which is the harsh, abrupt closing and opening of the vocal cords, like the sudden pause in the middle of the word uh-oh.
It's basically an interruption of the airflow.
Precisely.
Mm.
So if a British speaker says a word ending in R, and the very next word begins with a vowel, dropping the R would create two vowels crashing into each other, requiring a harsh glottal stop.
So to avoid this, the R magically resurrects.
Yes. It acts as an aerodynamic bridge, allowing continuous, smooth airflow between the words.
Let's try this. If you are listening, try shadowing the phrase far enough. In isolation, far has no R. But next to enough, which starts with a vowel, the tongue lifts to create the bridge.
So it becomes farina.
You glide right over the boundary between the words.
Exactly. 4 apples becomes 4 rapples. The R is simply a tool for vocal efficiency, preventing the vocal cords from having to slam shut and reopen.
Let's do a live shadowing exercise with this. Listener, I want you to imagine shadowing the sentence, "The car is better."
Okay, a great test sentence.
First, we map the American rhotic target. The tongue bunches up hard twice. The car is better.
Now map the British RP non-rhotic rules onto the exact same sentence. Car ends in an R, but the next word starts with a vowel.
So the aerodynamic bridge activates. We have a linking R.
Right, the chorus. But look at the end of the sentence better. It ends in an R and hits a hard pause. No vowel follows it.
So the tongue stays flat.
Exactly. So the fully mapped British phrase is the chorus betten.
The car's bed too. You link the first boundary and drop the final phoneme.
The ability to dynamically toggle your tongue position based on the succeeding letter is the absolute hallmark of intermediate shadowing.
I do want to clarify a massive generalization that Berlitz and Cambridge warn against, though. We tend to shorthand this as rhotic equals American, non-rhotic equals British.
Oh, yeah. That is a huge oversimplification.
Right, because historically and geographically, that boundary is incredibly porous.
The linguistic history proves it. Pockets of the southern and eastern United States, like the classic Boston Pack the Car or older Savannah, Georgia dialects, are heavily non-rhotic.
Which is a remnant of historic maritime trade routes with England.
Exactly. And conversely, if you travel north to Scotland or west to Ireland, you hit fiercely rhotic populations that emphasize the R even more aggressively than Americans do.
Which means when you sit down to shadow, you cannot just select a generic American or British tag. You must select a specific regional human being and meticulously map their individual phonetic rules.
That mapping process becomes highly intricate when we move past the R and analyze the vowels and internal consonants that separate general American from standard British RP.
The Berlitz Guide highlights vowel elongation. The British jaw tends to drop further, creating longer, much more open resonant spaces for vowels.
Whereas the American jaw stays slightly tighter, creating shorter, more nasalized sounds.
But the most famous consonant divergence has to be the American flapping T.
The alveolar flap. In American English, when a T is sandwiched directly between two vowel sounds, it undergoes a radical transformation.
It stops being a T.
Essentially, yes. Instead of a crisp, aspirated stoppage of air, the vocal cords remain active, and the tip of the tongue merely flicks against the roof of the mouth for a fraction of a millisecond. It essentially becomes a soft D sound.
My favorite analogy for this is skipping a stone across a pond. The American flapping T is the stone briefly grazing the surface of the water. The alveolar ridge, just enough to register a sound, but preserving all the forward momentum of the vocal airflow.
I love that.
Water glides into water. Better skims into better.
And following that analogy, the British RPT in that same environment is like dropping the stone straight down into the water.
A total splash.
Right. The tongue creates a complete hard seal against the roof of the mouth, temporarily stopping all airflow before releasing it with a burst of aspiration. What too? It requires significantly more muscular precision and interruption of breath.
But regardless of whether you are skimming stones or dropping them, both accents rely completely on the absolute most important sound in the English language.
The schwa.
The schwa, represented by the phonetic symbol that looks like an upside-down E. It is the gravitational center of English phonetics.
It is the sound of absolute muscular relaxation. The jaw drops slightly, the lips are entirely neutral, the tongue sits dead center in the mouth, and you emit a soft, breathy,
Like the A in sofa or the A in around.
The reason the schwa is the secret weapon of fluency connects directly back to our metronome. English is stress-timed.
Right, the syllables are crunched together.
Exactly. To compress all those unstressed syllables between the heavy beats, your mouth simply does not have the time to form pure, complex vowels. It defaults to the schwa.
It is the phonetic path of least resistance.
And if you fail to utilize the schwa, you will pronounce every vowel clearly, which instantly drags you back into a robotic, syllable-timed native rhythm.
Let's put the skateboard and the stone into practice. Listener, we are doing a target word comparison. I'll pull specific vocabulary from the Berlitz deep dive, and we'll map the exact muscular changes required depending on your target accent. First word, tomato.
Okay, for British RP, the focus is the long, open ah sound in the middle and the complete stoppage of air on the internal T.
Right.
The first O collapses into a schwa. To MAH. Notice the vertical drop of the jaw on MAH.
Now shift your target to General American. That middle jaw drop vanishes, replaced by a tighter A sound, and that internal T gets caught between two vowels, so we skip the stone. It flaps into a D, tomato.
Next word, dance.
British RP drops the jaw deeply again, pulling the sound into the back of the throat for a rich, elongated vowel. Dance.
American English pulls the tongue forward, shortens the vowel, and flattens it considerably. Dance.
Final word, mature. This one demands entirely different consonant blending.
In British RP, the T remains crisp and distinct, followed immediately by a Y glide, and the final R is, of course, dropped. Mature.
General American forces the T and the Y to collide, fusing them into a CH affricate, and finishes with a hard bunch-tongue R, mature.
Mature versus mature. When you compare the mechanics side by side, it destroys the myth that one accent is lazier or posher than the other.
Oh, absolutely.
They simply evolved to prioritize entirely different types of vocal efficiency.
The American flapping T optimizes for speed and continuous vocal cord vibration.
While the British dropped, R optimizes for breath control, allowing the speaker to maintain a steady stream of air through the phrase without the tongue interrupting the airflow at the back of the mouth.
Your task in shadowing is to identify and adopt the specific physical efficiencies of your target speaker.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've broken the Spanish syllable-timed metronome, we've toggled the aerodynamic bridge of the non-rhotic R, we've skipped stones with the flapping T and relaxed our jaws into the schwa. We are officially ready for the final, most demanding stage of the masterclass,
Here we go.
the Scottish boss level.
The sources, specifically the extensive breakdowns from English with Catherine, suggest that advanced listening comprehension and phonetic flexibility require exposure to extreme variation.
And Scotland provides an unparalleled phonetic training ground.
It really does.
Now wait, if I'm a professional prepping for a major corporate presentation in Chicago or London, spending my Tuesday afternoon intensely imitating a Glasgow or Edinburgh dialect feels like an insane detour.
It does seem counterintuitive.
Right. Why wouldn't I just drill my target General American or RP accent endlessly? Why go to Scotland?
Because the anatomy and cognitive science of language processing back up this detour. True fluency isn't just about pronouncing your target accent cleanly.
Okay.
It is about auditory processing speed. Your brain's Wernicke's area needs the ability to instantly decode English sounds, even when they are heavily distorted by regional variations, background noise, or poor audio connections.
Oh, so it's like resistance training for the auditory cortex.
Exactly. When you force your mouth and brain to shadow a highly distinct, extreme phonetic variation like the Scottish accent, you stretch your articulatory flexibility to its absolute limit.
Like swinging two heavy baseball bats in the on-deck circle.
Perfect analogy. When you drop the heavy bat and return to your standard target business accent, your jaw control, your tongue placement, and your real-time processing speed will feel incredibly sharp and effortless by comparison.
Let's pick up the heavy bat. The Scottish accent has several unifying phonetic rules, regardless of whether you are looking at the guttural rapidity of Glasgow or the melodic lilt of Edinburgh.
Let's start with the consonants.
We noted earlier that Scotland is erotic, but it is absolutely not the American bunched tongue R.
No, not at all. The Scottish R is tapped and, in emphatic speech, fully rolled. It requires you to place the tip of your tongue against the alveolar ridge, that bumpy area just behind your top front teeth, and allow the airflow to vibrate the tongue rapidly.
So when an American says purple, pulling the tongue back, a Scottish speaker taps the ridge sharply. And in words ending in R, like Heather, where a British RP defaults to a lazy schwa hatho, the Scottish accent forcefully rejects the schwa and hits the tapped R prominently.
Hather. But the real cognitive heavy lifting in Scottish shadowing comes from the vowel shifts. The Scottish vowel length rule completely rewires how duration works in English, but let's focus on the specific shifts that short-circuit a brain trained on standard RP.
The oo shift is legendary.
It is.
In modern RP, the ow sound found in words like house or about is a complex diphthong. Your mouth starts open and closes into a W shape. But the Scottish accent flattens that diphthong entirely, shifting it forward into a pure, tight oo sound.
So house becomes whose. About becomes a boot. Catherine's Guide provides a classic tongue twister for this exact mechanical shift.
Oh, I know this one.
There's a moose loose about this whose.
Which means there is a mouse loose about this house.
There's a moose loose about this whose. It requires you to lock your lips into a tight circle and drastically reduce your jaw movement.
Then we have the short O shift, where standard RP uses a short, clipped O, like in the word Scottish. The Scottish accent frequently elongates it.
No.
Conversely, words that have a longer O sound in RP, like gone, shift completely. It becomes an elongated own sound, gone.
And the E shift pulls short vowels upward. The short, relaxed E in head or dead is tightened and lifted into a long E sound.
So head becomes heed. The phrase use your head physically transforms into use your heed.
Use your heed. And finally, the O shift. Words with a complex O diphthong, like show or below, drop the secondary woo glide entirely. They lock the jaw and use a pure, raw, open O.
It's not show tapering off, it's a flat, sustained show.
Shadowing Scottish media also forces you to integrate rich regional vocabulary directly into your new phonetic rhythm. You can't shadow Scottish audio without seamlessly pronouncing dialect words.
Right, you encounter words like bonny, meaning beautiful, a bonny lass, with lass being a young woman,
Or you find yourself talking about a wee bairn, meaning a little baby.
or navigating traditional culinary terms with perfect tapped R's and tight vowels, like neps and tatties, the Swedes and potatoes traditionally served with haggis.
We have mapped an incredible amount of phonetic territory today.
We really have. We started by redefining language practice not as passive textbook memorization, but as an aggressive, physical hack of the brain's phonological loop.
We moved through the necessary discomfort of the 7-step protocol, emphasizing that the objective reality of the voice recorder is the only way to defeat the physiological illusions of bone conduction.
We diagnosed the underlying metronome of the language, replacing the Spanish syllable-timed machine gun with the English stress-timed rhythm. We hissed through prolonged S clusters to eliminate phantom vowels and analyze the exact jaw drops required for tense versus relaxed vowels.
We crossed the great R divide, contrasting the bunched rhotic tongue against the flat non-rhotic tongue, and mapped the complex aerodynamics of the British linking R to prevent glottal stops.
We skipped American stones with flabbing T's, dropped British stones with complete airflow interruption, and found the phonetic center of gravity in the schwa.
And finally, we swung the heavy bat in Scotland, retraining our articulators with tapped R's and the oo shift.
The phonetic mechanics are there. The final variable is application. The sources guarantee physical transformation, but only if you respect the muscular nature of the task. You don't need 3 hours a day. You need 15 to 20 minutes of highly focused, intense physical shadowing.
Find your specific target speaker. Utilize tools like Language Reactor or Audacity.
Hit record. Confront the playback, adjust your jaw, and do the physical work.
And as you embark on this, consider one final implication of this physical rewiring. When you dedicate yourself to shadowing, when you successfully manipulate your jaw, your tongue, and your vocal cords to flawlessly mimic a specific native speaker, you are doing more than just changing your airflow.
Oh, definitely.
You are, in a very subtle but real way, adopting the physical posture of a new persona.
It fundamentally changes how you carry yourself.
The physical cadence of an accent dictates its emotional resonance. So when you slip into the highly controlled, precise verticality of British RP, or the gliding, continuous momentum of American English, or the rhythmic, emphatic strikes of a Scottish brogue, does your personality shift with the phonetics?
That's such a fascinating thought.
The next time you put on your headphones and hit record on your daily 15-minute exercise, listen closely to the playback. Beyond just checking your vowels, you might hear an entirely new version of yourself talking back.
From lip-syncing the lyrics to completely taking over the stage. Thank you for doing the physical work and taking this deep dive with us. Keep your jaw relaxed, keep hitting record, and we'll catch you next time.